Hey guys, today we step into a world where stone, stars, and silence carried messages across centuries. You're standing in a desert, wind tugging at your clothes, eyes narrowing against the brightness. In the sand at your feet lies a carved sign, but it's not in your language, nor any language you know. It's a warning meant to last 10,000 years. And here's the uncomfortable truth. You probably won't survive this future. None of us will. Yet someone, somewhere, still wanted you to understand. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're here, tell me in the comments, where are you tuning in from? And what time is it right now where you are? I always love seeing that map light up with night owls, early birds, and those listening in the quiet hours. Because tonight, we're chasing the symbols our ancestors left behind. Warnings carved into stone, messages shot into the stars, signs etched in fields and skies. Were they meant for us? Or for someone else, watching from afar? Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You stand inside the vast steel bowl of the Arecibo Observatory, Puerto Rico, November 1974. The sky above is velvet black, pricked with stars. Around you, men and women in lab coats are buzzing with a nervous energy. For decades, humanity has wondered, if we call into the darkness, will anyone answer? Tonight, we try. The largest radio telescope on Earth tilts toward a cluster of stars 25,000 light-years away. Into the abyss, it fires not words, not pictures, but the simplest heartbeat of thought, binary code, zeros and ones, carefully ordered, a kind of cosmic ABC. You can almost hear it, a click-click rhythm, like Morse code for an unknown ear. The message begins gently, the numbers 1 through 10. Any intelligence that has ever counted stones or moons could follow that trail. Then come the atomic numbers of life itself. Hydrogen, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, the building blocks of you. Next, DNA, spiraled neatly into a tiny pattern. A stick figure of a human, arms outstretched, a dot for our sun, and the tiny blue bead of Earth. A diagram of the telescope itself, proof that we have machines, proof that we can think. You imagine what it feels like on the other end. Somewhere, if they exist, a mind alien to ours pauses, sees the pattern, and realizes we are not alone. Asterisk. It's a daring gamble. Because we know nothing of them, we must make it painfully simple. No poetry, no culture, just math and molecules, a universal language. And here's the irony. Even we humans, separated by only a few thousand years, already struggle to read each other's symbols. Consider the warning signs buried at nuclear waste sites, meant to endure 10,000 years. Will the people of the far future still know that the skull and crossbones means danger, or will it look like a strange religious emblem? That's the razor's edge we walk tonight. To speak without knowing the listener, to whisper into the dark, and hope. And while the binary pulses across space, think about this. If you were asked to sum up all of humanity into one picture, one idea, what would you choose? The face of a child? A cathedral? The internet? Or would you too trust the language of numbers and stars? It is August 2001. You're standing in the English countryside near the Chilbolton Radio Observatory. The air is warm, buzzing with insects, the fields golden with ripening grain. From the ground, everything looks ordinary just. Another patch of crops swaying gently in the breeze. But from above, a secret is waiting. The first sign appears as a face, pixelated, like a computer image blown up too far, its details invisible from the soil. You could walk across it all day and never know. Only when a pilot circles overhead does the pattern leap into focus, a human-like visage staring back, crops flattened into light and shadow, a portrait etched not with ink but with bent stalks. But the second formation is stranger. It mirrors something humanity itself once sent skyward, the Arecibo message of 1974. Side by side, the similarities are undeniable. Numbers, elements, DNA, solar system. Yet there are differences subtle, unnerving. The human figure is replaced with something else. A small body, a large head, eyes too big, a different DNA sequence, hinting at a biology not our own. And instead of Earth, a cluster of planets suggests another home, another Sunday. A reply? The media swirls. Scientists argue. Some call it a brilliant hoax, designed to mimic the original message. Others whisper of something more profound, that we spoke into the dark, and the dark spoke back. Imagine standing there, gazing from a hilltop, realizing you are looking at an answer to humanity's most audacious question. Are we alone? Asterisk 27 years after our binary signal set sail, here lies a reply carved in grain, a message in a medium we never expected. Skeptics remind us, anyone could have trampled these shapes in the night. True. And yet, the precision, the pixelation, the subtle changes that point to new DNA details catch the breath. Either a fraud of extraordinary cleverness or a reply of extraordinary consequence. Think about it. If you wanted to prove to someone that you understood them, wouldn't you copy their words back with small but deliberate changes? A teacher writes a sentence, the student copies it, then alters a word to show comprehension. Is that what we're seeing here? And what if it really is an answer? A quiet hello, not shouted across light years, but drawn in fields we plow and harvest. Why not use radio again? Why not lasers or probes? Maybe because symbols carved into Earth itself bypass our governments, our scientists, our filters. They go straight to the people, to you. As you look down on the golden fields of Hampshire, you feel a shiver. Was this an echo of our own daring call into the cosmos, or the first whisper of a neighbor we never knew we had? From the air, it is impossible to ignore. The portrait stares upward pixel by pixel, each square a patch of flattened wheat. It is not smooth like a painting, nor curved like a sculpture, but digital in its very texture like a photograph rendered in the crude graphics of the early internet. This is the face in the field, the companion to the Arecibo-like message. You imagine circling above it in a small plane, engine humming, and suddenly realizing you are gazing at an enormous visage carved into the living earth. The nose, the eyes, the shadows all achieved not with ink or stone, but by bending crops in perfect alignment. On the ground, you would never know. From the sky, it is as plain as day. Why a face? Why now? Some say it was meant to humanize the reply, to give it eyes, to remind us that communication is always between beings, not just numbers. Others claim it was a signature, a declaration. We are intelligent. We see you. We want you to see us. Asterisks. Skeptics, of course, point to artistry. With rope, boards, and careful planning, hoaxers could trample a field overnight. True. And yet the scale, the detail, the uncanny resemblance to a low-resolution digital image make it hard to dismiss. It is as though someone wanted to show us that they not only received our binary, but understood our technology obsession with pixels, with screens. And think about the timing. This appeared at the dawn of the 21st century, when the world was just beginning to live inside computers. Was it coincidence? Or was the medium itself pixelated wheat a deliberate nod to the new language we were teaching ourselves? There's another possibility, one that lingers uncomfortably. Perhaps the face was not meant for governments or scientists, but for us, ordinary people. You cannot classify a crop circle. You cannot hide it in a vault. Anyone with eyes can see it. In that sense, it bypasses authority. It speaks directly to humanity, carved in the same fields where we grow our bread. As you hover above the face, one thought settles in your mind. This was not random. This was intentional. And whether human or alien, the intent was simple: to be seen. Asterisk. What would you have felt, looking down on that giant face for the first time? Relief? Fear? Or the unnerving sense that the conversation we started had just become real? September 2004. The desert sun beats down on New Mexico, the same land where, decades earlier, whispers of a crashed saucer had shaken the world. You're walking just 11 miles from Roswell, boot sinking into soft sand, when something catches your eye, a corner of stone, triangular, dark, almost too perfect against the pale ground. You kneel, brush the dust away, and lift it. It is smooth, uniform in color, heavier than you expect, and on its surface see no scratch, no carving but a design that rises from the stone itself, circles within circles, crescents bound in symmetry. You pinch yourself, half doubting. What is this? Robert Ridge, the hunter who found it, thought the same. At first, he simply admired it, kept it as a curiosity, but the longer he held it, the stranger it became. Magnets clung to it. The design was not painted, not etched. It was part of the rock, fused in ways that defied explanation. And then came the eerie connection. The same sun and moon motif had appeared years earlier, across the ocean, in a crop circle in England. The patterns matched with uncanny precision. Could this be a deliberate echo? A symbol repeated on two continents, 8 years apart, waiting for someone to notice? Skeptics laughed. Looks like a hippie made it and tossed it out, Ridge's friend said. But scans told a different story. Under magnification, the surface showed no sign of tooling, no glue, no paint. The design belonged to the stone. Imagine holding it in your hands. It feels alive in a way most rocks do not. It clings to magnets, resists replication. When investigators sandblasted a copy, it looked crude, lifeless, artificial. Side by side, the original hummed with quiet mystery. And here's the question that lingers. If it were a hoax, why bury it halfway in the desert where no one might ever find it? Why risk anonymity? Most frauds seek attention. This stone seemed to wait. Linda Moulton Howe, one of the first researchers to study it, saw meaning in the design. Circles of sun and moon, perhaps reminders of universal constants. Every civilization, human or alien, knows the sky, the stars, the turning of light and shadow. Perhaps this was not just decoration, but instruction. Look upward, track the heavens, watch the cycles of time, asterisk. And the magnetism, was it accidental or intentional? In ancient times, magnetite was considered magical. A stone that pointed north, a gift from the gods. Could this rock be more than a symbol? Could it be a fragment of technology, a relic designed to interact with fields we barely understand? As you turn the Roswell Rock in your palm, the desert around you fades. What remains is the weight of a mystery, a symbol repeated across oceans, a design both familiar and alien. A silent message embedded in stone. Was it a prank? A relic? A calling card? Or the simplest of gestures, A small gift, left where we were certain to stumble upon it, sooner or later. From the Arecibo message pulsed into the stars, to the pixelated reply in an English field, to a strange carved stone lifted from the New Mexico Desertone theme, binds them all. Symbols. Symbols are humanity's oldest bridge. Before alphabets, before books, before the internet, we etched meaning into lines, circles, spirals. Across caves and temples, on coins and banners, symbols compressed entire worlds of belief into a shape you could carry in your mind. A cross, a crescent, a sunburst, a serpent. Each, in its own way, was once a universal language. The Roswell Rock carried circles and crescents, an echo of the sun and moon. The crop circle at Chilbolton repeated the Arecibo message, but altered the DNA. And suddenly, a pattern emerges. Whoever or whatever leaves these signs seems to speak to us in the only language that survives across time and distance: geometry, symmetry, number. And perhaps that is the point. Languages fade. Even today, a 1,000-year-old inscription can stump scholars. But a spiral, a lattice of circles, those endure. Even a child recognizes them. Even an alien might. Skeptics remind us, humans love patterns. We are wired to see faces in clouds, animals in stars. Maybe these circles are nothing but elaborate art projects, crafted by clever hoaxers with boards and ropes. But what if that instincto dismisses, the same one that blinds us to genuine contact? Think of it this way. If you were trying to reach across not just miles, but millennia, wouldn't you choose symbols too? Wouldn't you pick the one language that doesn't need translation? You can almost imagine the thought process. Numbers, because math is universal. Circles, because planets are round, stars are round, atoms spin in circles. Faces, because eyes meet eyes across species. The result is a trail of breadcrumbs, scattered across fields, carved into stone, waiting to be followed. Now consider this. We ourselves have begun leaving symbols for the far future. Nuclear waste sites carry warning stones engraved with stark, abstract icon skulls, jagged rays, hostile faces meant to frighten whoever stumbles across them in 10,000 years. But can we guarantee they'll still be understood? What if the Roswell Rock is someone else's version of that an artifact meant to survive, to warn, or to teach? What if the crop circles are not random pranks, but part of a system we've only glimpsed? When you connect the dots, the effect is unsettling. These aren't isolated curiosities. They form a tapestry of conversation, perwoven not in words, but in symbols, a language that speaks without speaking, a voice carved into the world itself. And the real question is not whether we can read it. The real question is, what will we do if we finally understand? Asterisk. Virginia, 1752. The flicker of candlelight dances across wooden beams. The air smells of wax, old timber, and anticipation. You are 20 years old, your heart beating quickly as the door shuts behind you. In this dim chamber, you are about to be initiated into a brotherhood whispered about in taverns and feared by priests. They call themselves Freemasons. George Washington stood in such a room. So did Benjamin Franklin, John Hancock, Paul Revere. Founding fathers of a new nation, but also initiates in an older mystery: Freemasonry. What is it? Not just a social club, though members drank and debated. Not just a philosophy, though symbols of wisdom filled their halls. It was and is a society built on ritual, secrecy, and the pursuit of knowledge, scientific and spiritual alike. In the 18th century, that pursuit extended even to the stars, and the tantalizing possibility that we were not alone. You picture yourself kneeling as a square and compass are set before you. The square, wisdom; the compass, the circle you draw around yourself, the boundary between the known and the unknown. At the center, the letter G, the great architect of the universe. To some, God. To others, a more distant power, perhaps not of this earth. This duality, faith and science, mysticism and reason defined the Enlightenment. The Freemasons carried that torch across the Atlantic, embedding it into the DNA of America. The Declaration of Independence had 56 signers. 9 were confirmed Masons. Of the 39 who signed the Constitution, 13 belonged to the Lodge. A third of the architects of the Republic wore the symbols of an ancient society on their hands. And look at Washington, D.C. itself. Obelisks, pyramids, the all-seeing eye. These are not accidents. The very city is a text written in stone, echoing Egypt, echoing wisdom older than Christianity, echoing mysteries never fully explained. Skeptics dismiss this as coincidence, but coincidences pile high. On the $1 bill, a pyramid topped with an eye. In the city's layout, alignments that mirror Masonic tools. Even in 1866 lithograph of George Washington as a Freemason shows him with Jacob's ladder behind him, angels ascending, yes, but from a dark round object glowing with light. Was that a metaphor? Or was it, as some whisper, a memory of a craft descending from the sky? Pause here. Think about it. Why would the most rational men of their age, men who sought to build a republic on logic and law, embrace symbols drawn from mysticism, from Egypt, from the stars? Why risk ridicule unless they believed these symbols carried real power? Perhaps they did not see a contradiction. Perhaps they believed reason and mystery were two halves of the same circle. And perhaps, just perhaps, they suspected that the great architect of the universe was not only watching but visiting. As the candle gutters and the lodge fades from view, one thought lingers. The foundations of America were not only political, they were symbolic. And those symbols still surround you today, hidden in plain sight. Picture yourself standing in front of a Masonic altar. The room is silent, heavy with expectation. On the table rests a compass and a square, their polished metal gleaming in the candlelight. They are not just tools of a builder. Here, they are instruments of meaning. The compass draws a circle around you, reminding you of the boundary of self. Step beyond that circle, and you venture into knowledge, into mystery, into light. The square, sturdy and right-angled, is wisdom itself, the reminder that your actions should be measured, your thoughts aligned. And in the center, glowing in gold, the letter G. For some, it stands for Geometry 3 Foundation of Creation. For others, for God. And, for a few, for the grand architect of the universe, an intelligence that spans galaxies. Light, in Freemasonry, is not just illumination, it is enlightenment. The idea that you can move from darkness into clarity, from ignorance into knowledge, from superstition into understanding. But notice the irony. These rituals of light are wrapped in secrecy, symbols instead of sermons, geometry instead of doctrine. Step outside the lodge and into Washington, D.C., and you see the same language written on a larger scale. The Washington Monument, an obelisk, echoing ancient Egypt. The Capitol Dome, a hemisphere, symbol of the heavens. The Great Seal of the United States, a pyramid crowned with a radiant eye, gazing forever outward. These are not random ornaments. They are messages carved into the nation's skin, and they whisper of light. The pyramid is unfinished, as though inviting progress. The eye radiates beams, as though knowledge itself descends from the sky. Hold a dollar bill in your hand, and you hold a miniature scroll of symbolism folded into every pocket. Skeptics say these are artistic flourishes. But pause and ask, why did the most pragmatic men of their age choose symbols drawn not from Christianity, but from older, stranger traditions? Why not crosses or saints? Why pyramids, obelisks, eyes? Maybe they believe that wisdom is not owned by one faith, but scattered like light across cultures. Maybe they believe that the ancient Egyptians, the Greeks, even the Sumerians carried pieces of a puzzle still unsolved. And maybe they believe that light, whether from God, reason, or somewhere beyond the stars, was the thread tying it all together. Look around today, and you see the same principle at work. Corporations pour millions into logos that are not words, but symbols. A bitten apple, golden arches, a swoosh, each instantly recognized across language and border. The Freemasons knew the same truth. Symbols endure where words fade. As you stand beneath the shadow of the obelisk or trace your finger over the pyramid on your dollar bill, ask yourself, were these men simply decorating their republicor? Were they embedding a secret message? A message not just about politics, but about enlightenment, light, and perhaps contact. Because light is not just a metaphor. Light travels. Light carries. And if someone, somewhere, were trying to speak across the void, what better medium than light itself? Take a dollar bill out of your wallet. Smooth the crumpled paper between your fingers and look closely. There, in crisp green ink, sits one of the strangest official emblems in the modern world. A pyramid topped not by stone, but by an eye. Rays of light burst outward from its gaze. Below, a Latin phrase whispers, Annuit coeptus, novus ordo seclorum, asterisk. Most of us never think about it. Money passes from hand to hand too quickly for reflection. But stop and consider, why does the seal of the United States, founded by men of reason and law bear, a symbol drawn from ancient Egypt, older than Christ, older than Rome? The all-seeing eye is one of humanity's oldest icons. Egyptians carved it as the Eye of Ra, guardian and judge. Christians reinterpreted it as the Eye of Providence. The Freemasons adopted it as the mark of the great architect of the universe. And here it is again, watching over every transaction, printed billions of times, in every pocket and purse. Now, look around Washington, D.C. The obelisk of the Washington Monument pierces the sky. The Capitol dome mirrors the heavens. The streets themselves are said to align in Masonic patterns, though skeptics argue over maps. Whether accident or intent, the city hums with geometry. What message is being sent? One possibility is simple, that the Founding Fathers sought to root their republic in timeless wisdom. Another possibility is stranger, that they wished to declare allegiance to something beyond, a cosmic order, an unseen watcher, a providence that guided their fragile experiment. Picture yourself holding that dollar bill again. The paper smells faintly of ink and sweat, worn by countless hands. And yet it is also a talisman, a reminder that symbols outlive men. The founders are long gone, but their eye still stares back at you. Skeptics laugh. It's just design, they say. A flourish. But ask yourself, when nations choose their seals, their coats of arms, their banners, do they pick flourishisor? Do they pick meanings? Every line, every color, every emblem is chosen with care. And this emblem was chosen by men who gathered in lodges lit by candles, speaking of geometry, of ancient wisdom, of light. Maybe it is nothing more than metaphor. Or maybe, every time you pay for a coffee, you are touching the echo of a mystery, a reminder that America's foundations were not only political, but symbolic. That stone and paper alike can carry messages meant to last centuries. And here's the chilling thought. What if the eye is not just a symbol of God? What if it is also a memory of something the founders believed had once gazed upon us and might again? Stretch a globe before you. Trace your finger along its curved surface. There is a line subtle, invisible threading across oceans and continents, linking some of the most mysterious places on Earth. Begin in the Pacific, on Easter Island. 900 stone giants stand in silence, their backs to the sea, their faces gazing inland. Travel east, across waves and mountains, until you reach Machu Picchu, perched 7,000 feet above sea level, hidden in the clouds of the Andes. Keep moving, and your line cuts through Mohenjo-Daro in Pakistan, a city so ancient that its ruins whisper of forgotten science and even, some claim, nuclear fire. And the line does not stop. It crosses the Giza Plateau in Egypt, where pyramids mirror the heavens. It grazes the Nazca Desert of Peru, where colossal geoglyphs stretch like runways. It touches Angkor Wat in Cambodia, whose towers bloom like lotus flowers frozen in stone. Ur in Mesopotamia, Petra in Jordan, Persepolis in Persia fall upon or near this uncanny alignment. Coincidence? That word feels thin in your mouth. How could cultures separated by oceans, languages, and centuries have built their sacred sites along the same narrow path? To achieve this, you would need flight, or maps spanning the globe, or guidance from someone who saw Earth not as scattered pieces, but as a whole. The ancients themselves seemed to believe these sites were more than temples. They called them gateways, houses of the gods, places where earth and sky touched. If you stand in Giza, the pyramids echo Orion's belt. If you stand in Teotihuacan, the Avenue of the Dead points toward celestial alignments. If you stand in Easter Island, the Moai seem to channel mana, spiritual power. Skeptics argue, the Earth is large, and with enough sites, some will line up by chance. But look closer. These are not random villages or shrines. They are the most extraordinary, the most sacred, the most mathematically precise monuments our ancestors ever built, and they hum together like beads on a string. Imagine the possibility. A grid, an ancient network stretching across the planet, designed not for us, but for those who could see from above. A message in geography itself. A map etched into stone and soil saying, here, 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 asterisks. And if that's true, then the question becomes unsettling. Who was meant to follow this line? Who saw someone else, returning to check their markers on a planet they once visited? Night falls on the Giza Plateau. The desert cools, the air sharpens, and above you, the stars ignite. You tilt your head back and see Orion's belt, two bright stars, Alnitak and Alnilam, and a third, Mintaka, dimmer, set slightly to the side, 3 jewels pinned against the black. Now lower your gaze. Before you rise the 3 great pyramids of Egypt, Khufu, Khafre, Menkaure, 2 massive, 1 smaller, offset just so, earth and sky mirroring one another. Is this coincidence? The skeptics say yes. But stand here, let the night wind whistle over the stones, and you feel something else. Intent, precision. The pyramids are not scattered. They are aligned, as though their builders wanted to pull the stars down to the sand. This pattern is not unique. In Teotihuacan, Mexico, The pyramids of the sun and moon form layouts echoing Orion. In the American Southwest, Hopi villages align with the same constellation. In northern England, ancient earthworks mirror the heavens, cultures separated by oceans, each tracing Orion upon the ground. Why Orion? For the Egyptians, these stars were Osiris, god of the afterlife, lord of resurrection. For others, they were hunters, warriors, or messengers. To align with Orion was to anchor heaven on earth, to make the sacred permanent. But perhaps it was more than religion. Ancient astronaut theorists argue that Orion was chosen because it was home, that visitors from another star system left this celestial fingerprint, urging us to remember where they came from, or where we should look. Pause here. Imagine you are an ancient builder. You know your life is short, your language fragile, but stone endures. If you want the future to know what you revered, what you saw, what you followed, you carve it in rock, you set it in alignment, you copy the stars. Even today, we do the same. Cities trace constellations. Memorials align with solstices. Light shines through temples on precise days of the year. We cannot resist turning Earth into a mirror of the sky. So ask yourself, when you see Orion rise, and when you see the pyramids gleam in moonlight, do you see coincidencer? Do you see a code that whispers, as above, so below? A reminder that the blueprint of our greatest monuments might not have been entirely ours. And here is the thought that lingers, long after you leave the plateau. If Orion guided the ancients, perhaps it is guiding us still. Perhaps the stars we gaze at in wonder are not just distant suns, but addresses, invitations. In myths across the world, a strange symbol repeats: twin serpents, coiled and climbing. Sometimes they twine around a rod, sometimes they face one another in mirrored arcs. To the Greeks, it was the caduceus, staff of Hermes, herald of the gods. To the Sumerians, it was Ningishita, the serpent god of the underworld. In India, it became Kundalini energy, coiling up the spine like a snake of fire. Now, look closer. Two strands, spiraling, crossing over one another. The resemblance is uncanny. The double helix of DNA, discovered by Watson and Crick only in 1953, yet echoed in carvings and myths thousands of years older. Coincidence or memory? You stand in a temple, torchlight flickering over stone. On the wall, serpents twist upward in perfect symmetry. Was this only mythic art, or was it knowledge encoded in symbol? Knowledge we only rediscovered millennia later with microscopes and X-rays? Ancient astronaut theorists suggest a bold idea, that the gods of myth were not gods at all, but visitors beings who manipulated early human genetics. That the serpent staffs, the twin coils, were not metaphor but instruction, a record of intervention hidden in the very language of myth. Consider Moses raising his staff to part the sea. Consider the Mesopotamian rods, emblems of divine authority. Consider the strange egg-like stone found in Portugal, carved with a rod rising through its center. Power, creation, transformation always encoded in the same shape. But pause here. Think about what DNA really is. A code. 4 letters, written billions of times inside every cell. A universal language, older than speech, older than symbols, older than fire. If someone wanted to leave their signature in us, where better than in the code itself? And if these ancient symbols were indeed whispers of genetic knowledge, what does that mean for us? Were we shaped, guided, or simply observed, as one might tend a garden? Skeptics call it pareidolia. Humans see patterns everywhere. Serpents were common, they say, and spirals are natural. True enough. Yet the alignment remains uncanny. too uncanny to dismiss easily. Picture yourself holding a serpent's staff, feeling the weight of carved wood or stone. You see the twin spirals, and you realize this is not just ornament, it is memory. A memory of life itself, encoded in curves that reach across time. And so the question lingers, whispered by every snake carved in temple stone. Were we truly alone in writing the story of our own creationer? Were we edited, long ago, by hands not human? Southern Portugal. The museum is quiet, the air cool and faintly musty, heavy with the scent of old wood and paper. You walk slowly between glass cases of pottery, coins, tools remnants of forgotten centuries. And then, in a dimly lit corner, you see it. A stone egg, nearly 6 feet long, impossibly smooth, balanced like a relic from another age. You step closer. On its surface runs a single carving. A rod, rising through the center, flanked by faint symmetrical lines. It looks simple, almost too simple. But simplicity can be deceptive. The guide whispers. Some say it could be 7,000 years old, asterisk. You lean in, and the carving reminds you of so many things at once. A staff, symbol of authority. A scepter, carried by kings and gods. A spine, rising from base to crown. A double helix, spiraling invisibly through the heart of every cell. The Mesopotamians saw rods as emblems of divine power. Moses carried a staff that summoned miracles. The Greeks gave Hermes a caduceus. Again and again, across cultures, across time, the rod emerges as the tool of the gods. And here, etched into ancient stone, it appears once more. Close your eyes. Imagine the craftsman who carved this egg. Chisels striking stone, sparks flying, hands steady. Did he know what he was? Inscribing, or was he copying a pattern handed down, a memory older than his people, older than his land? Did he believe he was creating an emblem of power, or was he preserving knowledge he could not fully grasp? Some researchers dismiss it. Just decoration. But others see echoes of DNA, of energy rising, of creation itself. The egg is, after all, a universal symbol of birth, of potential, of beginnings. To carve a rod into an egg is to suggest not just life, but the coding of life. And here's the unsettling thought. If the ancients really carried fragments of genetic knowledge, where did they get it? From observation? A loner from instruction? You stand in that quiet museum, fluorescent light buzzing faintly above, and you realize this egg is not just an artifact. It is a question about origins, about power, about the invisible strands that bind us. And as you turn away, one final thought clings to you. Perhaps this stone egg was not meant to be understood in its own time. Perhaps it was left for us, thousands of years later, when we finally cracked the code of DNA, when the carving would suddenly make sense. What if it is not just a relic? What if it is a reminder that the story of life and of humanity may not have been written by us alone in Alaska? The word alone conjures distance, cold, and silence. You are standing at the edge of an endless horizon-jagged mountains cutting into the sky, forests so thick they swallow sound, and rivers that twist like silver veins across the land. The air is sharp, biting at your lungs. Out here, civilization feels like a rumor. It is in this wilderness that mysteries cluster like storm clouds. Locals whisper of strange lights flitting across the mountains. Hunters speak of shapes gliding silently overhead. Pilotsmen trained never to panic report instruments failing, compasses spinning, planes veering off course as though tugged by an unseen hand. And then there is Mount Hayes. One of Alaska's tallest peaks. Its slopes are scarred with glaciers, its summit veiled in snow. From a distance, it seems ordinary, just another spine of stone. But for decades, eyewitnesses have claimed the skies around it belong to something else. Saucers, orbs, silent triangles, a catalog of unidentified craft that refuse to vanish from memory. For years, these were just stories, campfire tales. But then came the revelations, declassified CIA documents. In the 1992nd, researchers discovered files describing a secret project code named Stargate. Hidden in those papers were accounts of remote viewers, psychics tasked by the U.S. government to peer across space and time. Again and again, their visions drew them to Mount Hayes. And what they described was astonishing. An underground facility, vast, geometric, humming with energy. Not human. Skeptics scoff. Remote viewing is fantasy, they argue. Yet the documents are real, stamped and dated, archived in government vaults. Why did the CIA spend time and money probing a mountain in Alaska if nothing was there? And then came another discovery. In 1992, geologists detected a pyramidal object buried deep beneath the Alaskan soil, larger than the Great Pyramid of Giza. Its top lies 150 feet below ground, hidden, silent, and inexplicable. Some call it the Dark Pyramid. Pause and imagine this. Beneath the frozen tundra, beneath rock and ice, a structure older than history itself. Not a temple for humans, but a machine, a reactor, a beacon, something that still hums with purpose long after its makers vanished. Stand here long enough, and you begin to feel it. The land itself seems restless. The wind howls in odd harmonics. Birds scatter at nothing, and above, the aurora ripples green and violet, curtains of light that seem to answer some unspoken command. What is it about Alaska? Why here, in a land so remote, so unyielding? Perhaps because remoteness is perfect for hiding. Perhaps because power lies in places untouched. Or perhaps because someone, long ago, chose this wilderness as a harbor for secrets. And the question hangs heavy in the frozen air. Is Mount Hayes just another mountain, or is it the doorway to something we were never meant to find? Picture this. You're flying over the Alaskan wilderness in a small bush plane. Below, endless tundra and jagged peaks stretch out like a frozen sea. The pilot points to the horizon, where Mount Denali dominates the skyline. Then, he leans in and whispers a rumor, a pyramid, buried beneath the ground, larger than anything in Egypt. The Dark Pyramid, they call it, discovered in 1992, not by archaeologists, but by accident. Seismic instruments, designed to measure the ripples of a Chinese nuclear test, instead caught something else, a structure beneath the Alaskan soil, geometric, colossal, unmistakably artificial. Its peak lies 150 feet underground. Its base, if calculations are correct, dwarfs the Great Pyramid of Giza. The implications are staggering. If it is natural, then it is a geological freak unlike any other. If it is man-made, then who built it and when? The land above it holds no ruins, no carvings, no record of people who could shape such stone. And if it is neither natural nor human, then what? Some researchers speculate that the pyramid is not a tomb or temple, but a machine, a reactor, designed to harvest Earth's natural energies. Alaska, after all, is riddled with magnetic anomalies, regions where compasses spin and instruments fail. Could the pyramid be the cause? Or could it be feeding on that power, amplifying it, channeling it for a purpose we can only guess? Now tie this to the CIA's Project Stargate. Remote viewers described an underground base near Mount Hayes tunnels, chambers, lights. Their accounts, recorded long before the seismic anomaly was made public, align uncannily with the idea of a hidden structure. Coincidence or corroboration? Skeptics say it's fantasy. Bad data. Human imagination. The human need to find patterns where none exist. But pause for a moment. If you were tasked with hiding advanced technology on Earth, where would you place it? In a desert, where shifting sands might reveal it. In a jungle, where vegetation could be cleared. Or in Alaska, beneath permafrost, glaciers, and the kind of silence that swallows secrets whole. Imagine descending into it. A tunnel drilled through ice, walls humming faintly. The air grows warmer the deeper you go, though no heater runs. Ahead, a chamber opens, vast and geometric, angles sharp as crystal. In the center, a structure that glows faintly, as if alive, not a ruin, not a relic. A machine waiting to be switched on. And here is the question that chills you more than the Alaskan wind. If the Dark Pyramid exists, is it dormant or has it always been running? Alaska is vast, empty, and merciless. Yet it is also strangely hungry. For decades, the skies above have swallowed airplanes whole. Not just one or two. Not just small bush planes flirting with bad weather, but hundreds. Military aircraft, commercial flights, private jets all vanishing in what has come to be called the Alaska Triangle. You're seated in the cockpit of a small Cessna, engine droning steadily. The compass quivers, then spins. The GPS screen flickers, static crawling across its face. Outside, the landscape blurs. One moment mountains loom sharp against the sky. The next, they seem to melt into fog. And then silence, radio dead. No warning, no wreckage, just disappearance. The most famous case came in 1972. A twin-engine Cessna carrying U.S. Congressman Hale Boggs and House Majority Leader Nick Begich vanished between Anchorage and Juneau. Search teams combed 32,000 square miles for weeks, deploying 40 military aircraft. Nothing. Not a scrap of metal, not a drop of oil. 4 men simply ceased to exist. Locals speak of magnetic anomalies, of compasses spinning like tops. Pilots describe invisible hands tugging at their planes, pulling them off course. Survivors of near misses tell of sudden storms appearing from clear skies, walls of wind that batter wings, and light silent, darting, not belonging to any human craft. Skeptics point to Alaska's terrain, jagged peaks, sudden squalls, endless forests that can hide wreckage for centuries. True. But then why the instruments? Why the electronics failing without cause? Why the repeated stories of orbs and disks? Consider Bermuda. The triangle there has swallowed ships and planes for centuries, blamed on magnetism, methane gas, even portals in space-time. Alaska's triangle feels eerily similar, but colder, harsher, lonelier, as if the land itself conspires to erase intruders. Now imagine this. If the Dark Pyramid beneath Alaska is real, if it hums with energy, what would that do to the instruments above? Could its electromagnetic field scramble compasses? Could it pull planes down like moths to a flame? Could it be the hidden reason why so many vanish here, never to be found? And the question no one wants to say aloud, what if those planes did not simply crash? What if they were taken? You picture yourself flying low over the mountains. The aurora shimmers above, green curtains rippling in silence. Suddenly, the instruments fail. The engine coughs. And from the corner of your eye, a shape moves, gleaming silver against the stars. You have one last thought before the world goes white. Alaska does not give back what it takes. Southern Mexico, centuries before Columbus ever touched these shores. In the humid lowlands of the Olmec world, colossal heads stare silently through the jungle. 12 feet tall, weighing more than 50 tons, their faces are stern, lips pressed tight, helmets carved in basalt. They seem impossibly human yet impossibly alien, too. You walk among them. The air is heavy with the scent of damp earth and moss. Cicadas sing, and somewhere far off, thunder rolls. You place your hand against the cool basalt cheek of one statue, expecting nothing, but the compass in your other hand trembles. Its needle pulls sideways, as if the stone itself has a pulse. This is not imagination. Archaeologists have tested the heads in nearby statues from Monte Alto, Guatemala. Some of them are magnetic. Not slightly, not subtly, but strongly enough that a needle will swing and cling, and, stranger still, the magnetism isn't random. It is concentrated in the statue's temples, navels, and mouths, as though the sculptors knew exactly where to place it. But how? These were people without compasses, without iron, without knowledge of electromagnetism, yet they carved stones that behave like coded machines. Imagine chiseling a rock until invisible forces flow through it. Imagine sculpting not just for shape, but for energy. Skeptics argue it's coincidence. The basalt contained magnetite, they say, and the magnetic fields were natural. But then why align them with features of the body temples, bellies, lips? Why focus the magnetism where the human spirit was thought to dwell? Ancient astronaut theorists push further. They see these statues not as art, but as storage, a kind of hard drive, encoding information in stone through magnetic fields. Data, not decoration. And perhaps the knowledge carved into them was not for their time, but for ours. Consider this. Modern scientists now use magnetized particles to encode data at unimaginable scales. Every hard drive in your home is a descendant of this principle. What if the Olmecs had help or memory of the same technique? You step back, the colossal head looming above you. Its eyes seem to follow, its weight pressing down like centuries themselves. A civilization left no books, no scrolls, no written records that survived. Only these heads, humming faintly with magnetism, as if whispering in a language of fields and forces. And here is the thought that chills you. What if their knowledge wasn't lost? What if it's still here, encoded in stone, waiting for us to learn how to read it? Because stone endures. Longer than paper, longer than silicon. Perhaps the Olmecs knew that. Perhaps they chose stone not just to honor gods but to preserve truths we have yet to unlock. Southern Egypt. The Nile glitters in the early dawn, its waters a ribbon of gold beneath the rising Sunday. You stand before Abu Simbel, a temple cut into the sandstone cliffs more than 3,000 years ago. 4 colossal statues of Pharaoh Ramses II guard the entrance, each over 60 feet tall. Their faces are serene, eternal, gazing east as though waiting for something. Step inside. The air is cool, heavy with the scent of dust and age. The walls are carved with gods and battles, hieroglyphs marching like soldiers across the stone. The passage grows darker as you go deeper, until you enter the sanctuary at the temple's heart. Here 4 figures sit side by side, Ptah, Amun-Ra, Ramses deified, and Ra-Harakti. Most of the year, the chamber is cloaked in darkness. But on 2 days, the 22nd of February and October, 22 NDEE rising sun pierces the temple's axis. A shaft of light cuts through the gloom, striking 3 of the statues, illuminating their faces in gold. Only Ptah, god of the underworld, remains in shadow. The alignment is so precise that even today, with lasers and computers, it inspires awe. Pause here. Imagine the builders, quarrying, carving, aligning. No GPS, no satellites, no steel. And yet they achieved perfection. The cosmos harnessed, the sun itself summoned to bow before their gods. Skeptics call it brilliant engineering, nothing more. But ancient astronaut theorists see something deeper. Abu Simbel is not merely a temple, it is a machina solar clock, a cosmic calendar, a receiver for light. At the exact moment the universe and human hands meet in a single beam, stand in that sanctuary as the light arrives. Dust dances in the golden shaft, settling on the stone faces. Time collapses. You feel the same awe an ancient priest must have felt, watching gods awaken in fire. Was this ritual worship or was it contact? A way of synchronizing human life with celestial rhythms? Established long before? And think of this, Abu Simbel is not alone. Across the world, temples, pyramids, and stone circles align with solstices and equinoxes, as though humanity was taught to listen to the sky. The ancients did not just build for beauty, they built for light. As the beam fades, plunging the chamber back into shadow, one thought follows you out into the desert sun. Perhaps the true gods of the ancient world were not idols of stone, but the forces of the cosmos itself, forces that someone, long ago, helped us learn to harness. The Mediterranean sun glitters on turquoise waters as you approach Sardinia, an island ringed by rocky cliffs and dotted with ancient ruins. On the surface, it is a paradise of beaches and vineyards. But dig beneath, and a stranger story emerges sown of giants. You walk among the Nuraghe, stone towers built more than 3,000 years ago, scattered across the island like broken teeth. Their purpose remains unclear, fortresses, temples, or something else entirely. The stones are massive, some weighing tons, fitted together without mortar. Stand beside them, and you feel small, as if they were not built for humans, but for beings much larger. Local legends speak of the Giganti de Monteprama, giants who once strode across Sardinia. And in the 20th century, farmers plowing their fields uncovered something startling. Massive stone statues buried in the soil. Towering figures with broad shoulders, wide eyes carved as concentric circles, shields in hand. They stand taller than any man, guardians from a forgotten age. But it isn't just stone. Whispers tell of skeletons, unearthed in caves and graves, measuring 8, 10, even 12 feet tall. The bones, locals say, vanished, quickly carted away by authorities, hidden from public view. Archaeologists dismiss these tales as exaggerations, yet the stories persist, generation after generation. Pause and imagine. If the myths are true, Sardinia was once home to peopler beings of impossible size. Were they heroes remembered as titans? Survivors of a race long vanished? Or visitors, leaving behind their likeness in statues carved by human hands? Look into the eyes of the Monteprama statues. Their gaze is unblinking, abstract, hypnotic. Those concentric circles, air, they, eyes, or symbols, targets, spirals of energy? Some researchers suggest they echo the same double helix motif seen elsewhere, a code repeated across cultures. Skeptics argue the statues are simply art, the skeletons mere exaggerations of tall men. But stand among the ruins, the Mediterranean wind whipping your hair, and it is hard not to feel something larger pressing down on the island. The stones are too heavy, the legends too consistent, the silence too thick. What if Sardinia was not merely an outpost of human civilization, but a memory of another species entirely? Giants who walked alongside us, their traces half buried, half erased, lingering only in stone and rumor. And the question follows you as you leave the island. Are these stories myth or suppressed history? And if giants once walked here, where did they go? Deep in the jungles of Costa Rica, among banana plantations and tangled roots, lie hundreds of stones shaped with uncanny perfection. They are spheres massive, smooth, some no larger than a fist, others weighing more than 15 tons. Locals call them las bolas. Archaeologists call them the Dikis spheres. You approach one, half buried in the soil. Its surface is weathered, scarred by rain, yet unmistakably round. Not almost round, perfectly round, to within millimeters. Imagine the patience it takes to carve granite into such symmetry, with no steel, no modern tools. Imagine the knowledge required to align stone with geometry itself. What were they for? Some rest in clusters, as if arranged deliberately. Others once formed lines pointing toward the mountains, or perhaps toward the stars. Legends whisper they were the work of the gods, or of a lost race who vanished, leaving only their stone worlds behind. From above, the spheres look like planets, scattered across the jungle floor. Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars-stone cosmologies echoing the sky. Did the Dikis people try to map the heavens on Earth? Were the spheres altars, calendars, or symbols of creation? Or were they something stranger, tools of alignment, resonating with forces we cannot yet measure? Skeptics insist they were status symbols, grave markers, or simple ornaments. Yet why carve so many? Why scatter them across miles of jungle hidden until farmers cut the trees? And why choose the sphere most difficult shape to perfect, the most abstract of forms? Hold a smaller sphere in your hands. Feel its weight, its balance. It is both simple and profound, the universe reduced to geometry. The ancients knew circles and cycles, the sun, the moon, the seasons. To shape a stone into a flawless sphere is to hold eternity itself. And so, the mystery lingers. The spheres sit silently, enduring storms, enduring time. Some line modern driveways, stolen from their resting places, yet still they radiate an odd dignity. They are reminders that geometry, like language, carries meaning deeper than words. As you step back into the jungle's shadow, one thought echoes. Perhaps these were not just stones, but messages. A silent chorus of planets on Earth, singing of cycles, of origins, of a cosmic order humanity once glimpsed and then forgot. The night is quiet now. You sit alone, somewhere between memory and dream, and the stories you have walked through begin to blur together. Crop circles shimmering in golden fields, a carved rock waiting in the desert, pyramids echoing constellations, statues whispering with magnetism, spheres resting like planets in the jungle. Different places, different ages shet, all threaded together by silence, stone, and light. Breathe slowly. The pace softens. The sentences stretch longer, like shadows at dusk. You begin to feel the weight of centuries pressing not heavily, but gently, like a hand guiding you to rest. Think of the builders, chiseling stone by firelight. Think of the watchers, tilting telescopes toward the stars. Think of the farmers, stumbling across buried giants. Each of them left something behind, a sign, a symbol, a question. We walk among their echoes, unsure whether they were speaking to us, to the gods, or to someone far beyond our skies. You can almost smell the lavender carried on a night wind, mingled with the faint wet paper scent of books left too long unopened. The world grows softer. The sharp edges of mystery fade into a blur, like stars seen through tired eyes. And in this twilight of thought, one truth remains. Humanity has always reached outward, upward, beyond. We carve, we align, we whisper into the dark. And perhaps, just perhaps, the dark has whispered back. So let the questions linger. Let the stones keep their secrets for another night. Rest in the knowledge that you are part of the same story, the same cycle, the same search for meaning that carried your ancestors through deserts and jungles, across oceans and skies. The mysteries will wait. For now, close your eyes, drift into stillness, and let the whispers of stone become the dreams of sleep.